Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, The Synthesis of Yoga with our beloved Ranga. We're in the chapter, The Self-Surrender in Works, The Way of the Gita, page 97, beginning with the line, this divine will is not an alien power.
I'll refer you back to what he said in the previous para, in my own words, and then we will read the para we have to read today. The freedom which normal ignorant man ascribes to himself is a false freedom. There is no such freedom. There is no freedom at all for the individual because it is nature, universal nature that moves body, life and mind like a puppet. Okay? But when the consciousness of man ascends out of the superficial nature into the upper planes of spiritual existence, then and then only is there true freedom. The soul is then free, independent of body, life and mind, and lives in the infinite peace and immutable tranquility. The ascent out of body, life and mind can be possible only when ego is abolished and the mental separateness vanishes. The only true will is the divine's will. The false free will of the individual in the ignorance, though false, is useful in the world to centralize the multiple personality of the outer nature. It is as if all things in the universal nature partially real. It is as all things in the universal nature partly real. It is ultimately turns out to be false, your ego and your sense of freedom, but there is a usefulness for it. The mind of man, by its clear imperative of choice, does several things. First, he imagines that it has a freedom, but it is incapable of discerning that itself is being motivated and acted upon by universal nature. He doesn't see that. The mind of man can have analytical clarity and precision, but it is quite unaware that it is itself being subjected to universal nature. 9/10 of the external forces in the cosmos escape its attention. It knows not its own past nor its own future destiny. It doesn't know. It believes firmly that it is driving itself, controlling and using its instruments of body, life and mind. As mentioned earlier, the falsehood of ego and free will has its own use. It ensures an effort at progress and avoids a fatalistic depression and discouragement. If you are told that your efforts are useless, you won't make any effort. So therefore, there is a truth to even the falsehood of the ego. It makes you make an effort. This false freedom harbors deep within itself a vast, powerful reality that oversees, presides, and impels from within the future progress of the individual. It impels from within the future progress of the individual. This divine presence within man knows the truth of things and guides him infallibly through the apparent meanderings and seeming wanderings into bylanes and subsequent delays towards a destined individual goal. This divine presence, referred to in the Gita as the Ishvara, is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, and governs the universal as well as the individual. Okay? And there is a quote from the Gita which is referring to Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddeshe Tishtati. The Supreme Lord is there in the heart of every living creature. That's what he said in the previous para. So now we will read the para we have to read today. He has spoken about the divine will, so now the divine will. This divine will is not an alien power or presence. It is intimate to us, and we ourselves are part of it. For it is our own highest self that possesses and supports it. Only it is not our conscious mental will. It rejects often enough what our conscious will accepts and accepts what our conscious will rejects. For while the secret one knows all and every whole and each detail, our surface mind knows only a little part of things. Our will is conscious in the mind, and what it knows by the thought only. The divine will is superconscious to us because it is in its essence supramental. Okay? Note the hyphen in the supramental. And it knows all because it is all. Our highest self, which possesses and supports this universal power, is not our ego self, not our personal nature. It is something transcendent and universal, of which these smaller things are only foam and flowing surface. If we surrender our conscious will and allow it to be made one with the will of the eternal, then and then only shall we attain to a true freedom, living in the divine liberty. We shall no longer cling to this shackled so-called freedom, a puppet freedom, ignorant, illusory, relative, bound to the error of its own inadequate vital motives and mental figures. We go back to the beginning of the text. Sri Aurobindo use of words is very flexible, so we must know what he is meaning. He uses a different word, but he means the same thing he describes in 10 ways. So we have to see what he is meaning. So the first thing, this divine will is not an alien power or presence. This is a very fundamental idea in the Vedanta philosophy. Everything in the physical world contains the divine, but not only contains, but is the divine. So even a stone is the divine in a materialistic form. The divine is formless, infinite, eternal, but he has the power to make himself into form, and he has also the power to make himself transcendent, cosmic and individual. So the individual is we are the individuals. So the divine is not only within us, but he himself also is the individual. It's not an alien power or presence. This idea is not present among many other religions because they say that there is a difference. The individual is a soul which is different from the Supreme Soul or God if you want. But that is not the Advaita philosophy. The Advaita philosophy is the divine is all, everything. There is only one ultimate reality, and that is Satchidananda. And everything below Satchidananda, when it manifests, it is still the divine in different forms. Okay. For it is our own highest self that possesses and supports it. Supports what? Supports ourselves. Our own higher self is that which possesses and supports it.
How do you explain supports it?
Yeah. Supports it means if the support is not there, then you will not be able to do the right thing. It's like a parent supports the child. The child is not conscious of the support of the parent, but the parent is paying his school fees, paying for his clothes, paying for his shoes, paying for his education. He is supporting, but the child is not conscious of it. So support in that sense.
So our highest self supports the divine will.
The divine will is not an alien power presence. It is intimate to us, and we ourselves are part of it. For it is our own highest self that possesses and supports it. That's right. The divine will, yeah. Only it is not our conscious mental will. Okay? It's not a conscious mental will. It rejects often enough what our conscious will accepts and accepts what our conscious will rejects. Now that's a very interesting sentence, because when a moralist takes a stand, and a moralist is one who doesn't live in the higher or the inner, he lives in the external body-mind life. So he may feel that he should not do something. Okay, exactly like the case of Arjuna. Arjuna is saying, I cannot kill my own people. But the truth is that he has to do it. So that's what Srinath is saying here. And in fact, it happens. That's the reason why it's very interesting. If the mother guides you, it's fine. Okay. Many people used to say, I become friendly with such and such a person. And mother would say to some people, no, this person is not the right person for you. Okay. But others, she would support the relationship.
Yes.
Because it would be helpful to him. Okay. The true divine will does not follow moral rules. It follows the truth, the rules of the truth. So that's what it meant here. It may be necessary for you, like Arjuna, to even resort to violence and murder, if you want to use that word. Or sometimes it may be necessary not to speak the truth. I don't say about necessarily speaking the truth or lie, because that's a little, but definitely sometimes you should not speak even the truth.
I have a humorous story about that.
Yes.
About a lady who went and saw the mother and was so totally taken with her that she said to a friend, I'm going to tell my husband every affair that I've had. Every one. And mother said, must she be so honest?
That was a sign of mother's humility. Yeah. There are so many interesting cases where you can see that he's saying that the psychic being rejects that which the mind thinks is fine, but it also accepts that which the mind thinks is wrong. That's what he's saying. Okay.
Can I share another personal story?
Go ahead.
There was a friend of mine, this is 1961, and handsomest guy I had ever seen. And he said, I'll take you to Europe and we'll meet girls and have great parties and all. And I wrote that to mother. And mother writes at the bottom of my letter, better not.
Just two short words.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is when I met her the next time, she went through my entire letter exactly as I had written it. And she had seen thousands of people before that. Then she says to me about this boy, it is better not to associate with those who live outside of themselves, as it were.
So living outside of themselves means living in the body-mind life and not the soul. So that's the thing. So this is an interesting sentence. That's why I took some time to go into it. It's a very, we can give a very ordinary example also. Okay. Someone is running to take refuge and he comes into your house and says, I am being chased by a crowd and they are after my blood, so please hide me somewhere. You hide him. The crowd comes, those people, and they say, where is this fellow? Are you going to tell him the truth? Certainly not. It's much better to keep quiet. And in that poem of William Blake, he says something very interesting. He says, a truth told with bad intention is worse than a lie. A truth told with bad intention is worse than a lie. I'm not using the exact words, but this is what he says.
Yeah.
is absolutely true. Because I am using the truth to punish my enemy or whatever it is. Suppose he has done something wrong and you know about it. When the authorities ask whether he has done this, are you going to tell the truth? If you tell the truth, it's not necessary to tell the truth. You just keep quiet. That's the right attitude. But if you want to hurt that your enemy, then you tell the truth. So this is exactly the thing. You have to be very, very careful. That's what we mean by going beyond morality. Telling the truth is always right? No, it's not. Telling a lie is always bad? Again, not absolute truth. It is not true. Of course, it's better to avoid a lie, always. But sometimes a lie can be told with a good intention. So that's what he's saying. We go to the next sentence. Only it is not our conscious mental will. It rejects often enough what our conscious will accepts and accepts what our conscious will rejects. For while the secret one knows all and every whole and each detail, our surface mind knows only a little part of things. Our will is conscious in the mind, and what it knows by the thought only. The divine will is superconscious to us because it is in its essence supramental. So, Srinath has made very clear, supramental is not the supermental he speaks of. It is just above the mind in that sense.
And he hyphenates the word.
He is hyphenated, and that's why it means above the mind.
Yes.
Not the supermind as he understands it. Okay. Then, and it knows all because it is all. And that's exactly what we said. From the highest level down to even the stone and the caterpillar and everything. Everything is the divine. This is the Advaita philosophy. Of course, you have to explain what you mean by that, because how can cruelty be the divine? So there is explanation for it. But this is the theory. There is nothing else except the divine.
And how can the worm become God? And he says in Savitri, and in the worm foresees the coming God.
That's right. That's right. So, our highest self, which possesses and supports this universal power, is not our ego self, not our personal nature. Now, when he means by personal nature, P lowercase and personal and personality, he always means the outer nature of body, life and mind. Mm-hmm. And when he uses the word person with a P cap, he means the soul and the self. Okay, this is what he calls the central being. Possesses and supports this power is not our ego self, not our personal nature. It is something transcendent and universal, of which these smaller things are only foam and flowing surface. Beautiful expression. And the foam and the bubbles, they are there and transient, they disappear. They are there, they disappear. Your body, mind, life also will disappear. There is something in you which will never disappear, your soul. Okay? So, if we surrender our conscious will and allow it to be made one with the will of the eternal, then and then only shall we attain to a true freedom, living in the divine liberty. We shall no longer cling to this shackled so-called freedom. Again will. I said freedom. Free will. Okay. A puppet freedom, ignorant, illusory, relative, bound to the error of its own inadequate vital motives and mental figures. So, our will is determined by our desires and our limited thoughts. That's what he said. A distinction has to be firmly seized in our consciousness. The capital distinction between mechanical nature and the free Lord of nature, between the Ishvara or single luminous divine will and the many executive modes and forces in the universe. So, the Ishvara is a transcendent. To make it clear to ourselves, we can speak of three levels. The level 1 is where we live in. It consists of matter, life and mind, universally as well as individually. This is level 1. This is the outer nature. That's what he's saying. So, the mechanical nature. Okay? And the second one is the cosmic, which is the mechanical nature. Alright? So, and the third is the individual. So, the true individual in you can be transcendent and also can be universal. But you have to distinguish between them. Nature is mechanical and seemingly unconscious. And the free lord of nature is the Ishvara, or in Srinivas's language, the Lord, the Master. Okay. He also, in the Gita, we use the word Purushottama. Yeah. Okay. So there is a difference. The transcendent, the cosmic and the individual. Distinction between mechanical nature and the free lord of nature, between Ishvara or single luminous divine will and the many executive modes and forces of the universe. The executive modes and forces of the universe are everything below the supermind, but mainly matter, life and mind. These are which are running the universe, and they are mechanical laws. So, now we read the next small para we finished. Nature, not as she is in her divine truth, the conscious power of the eternal, but as she appears to us in the ignorance, is executive force, mechanical in her steps, not consciously intelligent to our experience of her, although all her works are instinct with an absolute intelligence. Not in herself master, she is full of a self-aware power which has its infinite mastery, and because of this power driving her, she rules all and exactly fulfills the work intended in her by the Ishvara. We'll read the footnote after we finish the para. Not enjoying but enjoyed, she bears in herself the burden of all enjoyments. Nature as Prakriti is an inertly active force. For she works out a movement imposed upon her, but within her is one that knows. Some entity sits there that is aware of all her motion and process. Prakriti works containing the knowledge, the mastery, the delight of the Purusha, the being associated with her or seated within her. But she can participate in them only by subjection and reflection of that which fills her. Purusha knows and is still and inactive. Purusha knows and is still, in the sense of silent, okay, and inactive. He contains the action of Prakriti within his consciousness and knowledge and enjoys it. He gives the sanction to Prakriti's works, and she works out what is sanctioned by him for his pleasure. Purusha himself does not execute. He maintains Prakriti in her action and allows her to express in energy and process and formed result what he perceives in his knowledge. This is the distinction made by the Sankhyas. And although it is not all the true truth, nor in any way the highest truth either, of Purusha and of Prakriti, still it is a valid and indispensable practical knowledge in the lower hemisphere of existence. The lower hemisphere of existence is level 1, matter, life, mind. So, we go back to the beginning of the He is expounding the Sankhya philosophy here. So He's telling you the relation between Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is conscious being, is the, you can say, the personal aspect, okay? And he is consciousness. And Prakriti is energy, power. And the two together are creating the universe. Both have to be present. If both are not present, there cannot be any creation.
But Purusha doesn't do anything.
Purusha does not do anything. It commands or suggests to Prakriti to do whatever he has planned. You do it. It's allowing. In that sense, it is a support. So now he is discussing nature. Nature is with an N cap. There is an individual nature which is characteristics of your body, your vital and your mind. But there is also a universal nature where there is matter at the lowest level, then there is the world of prana, energy, force, and above that there is the world of thought, mind. So these are all worlds arranged, and universally whatever is there, the individual reflects that in a miniature form. So that's why we can say that the individual is microcosm, and we can say that the universal nature is macrocosm. Essentially the same, but in a reduced and condensed form, if you want. The individual is, therefore, he can become also cosmic in nature. Now, cosmic consciousness is available to man. So
now these dashes would be what we would call normally parenthetical phrase. The dashes would be understood as a parenthetical phrase.
yeah, that's right. This is typical. Here is an example. Okay.
Yes.
So we will do one thing. We will read the sentence without the parenthetical phrase. Then we will see what he's saying, and then after that we will read the parenthetical phrase and see what is meaning. So I am reading now the sentence without the parenthetical phrase. Nature is executive force, mechanical in her steps, not consciously intelligent to our experience of her, although all her works are instinct with an absolute intelligence. Okay? So what? We'll discuss this first and then go to the parenthetical phrase. Nature at the cosmic level is an executive force, mechanical, not conscious, okay? Not consciously intelligent, but it is not consciously intelligent, but to our experience. There is another experience where you see that she is conscious at the higher level. That is what he is saying in the parenthetical phrase. So parenthetical phrase is saying, not as she is in her divine truth, the conscious power of the eternal, but as she appears to us in the ignorance. At the lower level, we see nature to be inert, unconscious, mechanical. The river is flowing, the sunlight is coming, the wind is blowing, all mechanical and subject to fixed laws and no consciousness anywhere. But is that true? No, because there is a consciousness hiding inside. There is a consciousness in all these mechanical forces, making it do the right thing, making it obey the laws that it has itself imposed.
I'd like to ask about the 200,000 people who died in the earthquake. Where is nature there?
Oh, nature is doing her work. She is doing mechanically, she is killing people, but that doesn't bother her because it's not that that's the end of their life. They will always get a second chance in another life. So, it depends on what they have been in the past. So, each individual nature is going to undergo what it has done in the past. So, those who are dying young, for us, death is something terrible. But there is nothing terrible about it because you are going to get a second chance. It's like a lizard that loses one leg. He immediately grows another leg. Nothing, no danger, nothing at all. So, it would have been a disaster if you have only one life. That is the reason why the reincarnation theory is of such great importance.
Yes.
The divine is giving you a second chance, third chance, fourth chance. There is no end to it. It's not like some of the other religious beliefs. Reincarnation is a fact, and now it is being verified and confirmed by actual many cases.
Many.
There are many, many cases. In fact, the internet, there are 2,000 cases of, you can say, proved reincarnation. Okay? So, nature is doing her work. She is destroying, but she is also creating. When, let us say, about 30,000 people have died in Turkey, how many have been born in the world? We don't know. So there is always a balance. For us, these things are all negative. But each negative in the universe has its positive aspect also. So, now it's very clear. Nature at the higher level is a divine power, conscious force. But nature, when it comes down, it becomes mechanical energy. And consciousness at the highest level has the power. But when it comes down, it becomes only consciousness without power. So, that is what he is saying in this sentence. But he is saying also something very interesting. He is saying, although all of nature's works are instinct with an absolute intelligence, this we have to see, and that is, we might as well mention, that everything in nature, if you look carefully, you will see that there is a tremendous amount of order and purpose. How can we define consciousness? We can say consciousness is proved when there is an intention and a goal and a purpose. Then you can say that there is consciousness here. It's not a random movement. Look at the growth of plants. They are looking for light. Okay? You see the trees on the footpath. If the building is there, they go towards the light. The roots, they have the capacity to find water. So, this is the truth. Or in a desert, if there is no water, the plant itself adjusts itself to less water. So, there is a intelligence, the migration of birds, the building of nests by birds before the eggs come. So, there is a guidance from within. So, that is what Shri is saying. If you look carefully, you will see that it is happening everywhere. The spider making its web, it has to catch insects for its food, so it makes that web. Even we can't make that such a fantastic web. So there is intention and consciousness, mechanical consciousness, you can say, in nature. Okay, so that's the interesting part. With an absolute intelligence, not in herself master, she is full of a self-aware power. Now we'll read the footnote. This power is a conscious divine Shakti of the Ishvara, the transcendent universal mother. So, this power puts on also a personality. It's not an impersonal power. It's a divine mother who is the creatrix and the mediatrix of the universe. And that is the reason why there are many systems which don't worship God, the male aspect, but they worship the force aspect. In Sri Aurobindo also yoga is the same. We follow the idea of surrender to the Divine Mother, and she will do everything for you. There is also in the Tantra, that also is the Tantric method. Worship the Divine Shakti, worship the Divine Mother, the force. So, that's what he is explaining, that this mechanical force at the lower level is actually at the highest level, it's a full, not mechanical force, but conscious force. As it keeps coming down, it loses its consciousness and becomes mechanical. Okay? So not in herself master, she is full of a self-aware power which has an infinite mastery And because of this power driving her, she rules all and exactly fulfills the work intended in her by the Ishvara. It is like in a factory, for instance, okay, you are producing books, let us say, you are producing books. Each machine is only doing one small part, doesn't know what it is doing, but mechanically it goes on doing. But there are so many other operations, and final product, we know what final product will be, the book. But the printing machine does not know what it is doing, it just prints. The binding machine is binding. Okay? So the cutting machine is cutting the paper. Each one is executing and giving their input mechanically, but the final product is intended. The final product is the universe. So there are these mechanical forces which are acting seemingly inconscient. For she works out a movement imposed upon her, but within her is the one that knows. Some entity sits there. So there is purposely not being very specific. Some entity, okay, some being sits there that is aware of all her motion and process. Prakriti works containing the knowledge, the mastery, the delight of the Purusha. Okay, she's secretly enjoying what she's creating. Okay, that's a delight of the Purusha, the being associated with her or seated within her. So that's the interesting part. Seated within her. In us, the Purusha is the psychic being. So it is seated within the body, mind, life, which is the Prakriti. At our level, body, mind, life is the Prakriti, mechanically being ruled by nature, and this Purusha is inside, enjoying whatever is being done, but permitting it to be done. A lot can be said about that, but we won't go into that now because we are concentrated here. So, seated within, associated with her or seated within her, but she can participate in them only by subjection and reflection of that which fills her. But we can mention one thing. The being associated with her or seated within her, the being associated with her is the self. Association. But the one seated in her is the psychic being. There are two aspects of the central being. That's the interesting part.
Very.
Yeah. Some entity sits
But he
there.
capitalizes being.
Pardon?
Being.
Yes, conscious.
Cap. Yeah.
When you use the word being, it is conscious.
Yes.
Yeah, an entity that is conscious. But she can participate in them only by subjection and reflection of that which fills her. Okay? She can participate in the action only by subjection and reflection of that which fills her. What is it that fills her? The knowledge of the Purusha. Purusha knows and is still and inactive. He only gives the command, but he is not executing. Okay, but and she can participate in them only by subjection and reflection to that which fills her. Purusha knows and is still and inactive. He contains the action of Prakriti within his consciousness and knowledge and enjoys it. So this is the relation between Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is enjoying. He has told the Prakriti to create forms and is enjoying what Prakriti is doing. Okay, so he gives the sanction to Prakriti's works and she works out what is sanctioned by him for his pleasure. So we can see also the creation in nature is so colorful and so wonderful that even really we can also enjoy what is being done. Look at the colors of flowers. Look at the variety of flora and fauna. It's endless. Such beauty is there everywhere. Even we can enjoy what nature is doing. if we are sensitive enough. Purusha himself does not execute. He maintains Prakriti inner action. Maintains, he is using the word maintain, he is using the word supports elsewhere. It's the same thing. He supports Prakriti inner action and allows her to express in energy and process and formed result what he perceives in his knowledge. Now, it's a very interesting sentence. He allows her to express in energy and process and formed result. So, the process that nature is using is one thing, and then there is a formed result. So, there is a whole process. There is a conception of the Purusha, allowing Prakriti to use the energy and the process. Each process is different. There can be a material process, there can be a biological process, there can be a mental process. So, all these are processes, and they are creating the final product. So, final product, all the living creatures everywhere, literally flora and fauna, are the final results of everything. Formed result of vision. This is the distinction made by the Sankhyas, the Sankhya's philosophy. Although it is not all the true truth, not in any case the highest truth either, of Purusha and of Prakriti, still it is valid and indispensable practical knowledge in the lower hemisphere of existence. The lower hemisphere of existence is the world we live in. Matter, life and mind, which we normally refer to as level 1.
So, is Sri Aurobindo saying that level 2, may not be the Sankhya's?
Because Sankhya is saying that Purusha and I'll explain what he means by that. The Sankhya philosophy says that Purusha and Prakriti are always together, but never one. They are always separate. But the Advaita philosophy says that at the highest level they are one and the same. Consciousness force.
Yes.
So that's what it means. So Sankhya is not valid at the higher levels, but it is very valid at the lower levels. That's what he means. The individual soul or the conscious being in a form may identify itself with this experiencing Purusha or with this active Prakriti. If it identifies itself with Prakriti, it is not master, enjoyer and knower, but reflects the modes and workings of Prakriti. It enters by its identification into that subjection and mechanical working which is characteristic of her. And even by an entire immersion in Prakriti, this soul becomes inconscient or subconscious, asleep in her forms as in the earth and the metal, or almost asleep as in plant life. There, in that inconscience, it is subject to the domination of tamas, the principle, the power, the qualitative mode of obscurity and inertia. Sattva and rajas are there, but they are concealed in the thick coating of tamas. Emerging into its own proper nature of consciousness, but not yet truly conscious, because there is still too great a domination of tamas in the nature, the embodied being becomes more and more subject to rajas, the principle, the power, the qualitative mode of action and passion, impelled by desire and instinct. There is then formed and developed the animal nature, narrow in consciousness, rudimentary in intelligence, rajaso-tamasic in vital habit and impulse. Emerging yet farther from the great inconscience towards a spiritual status, the embodied being liberates sattva, the mode of light, and acquires a relative freedom and mastery and knowledge, and with it a qualified and conditioned sense of inner satisfaction and happiness. Man, the mental being in a physical body, should be, but is not, except in a few among this multitude of ensouled bodies of this nature. Ordinarily, he has too much in him of the obscure earth inertia and a troubled, ignorant animal life force to be a soul of light and bliss, or even a mind of harmonious will and knowledge. There is here in man an incomplete and still hampered and baffled ascension towards the true character of the Purusha, free, master, knower, and enjoyer. For these are in human and earthly experience relative modes, none giving its single and absolute fruit. All are intermixed with each other, and there is not the pure action of any one of them anywhere. It is their confused and inconstant interaction that determines the experiences of the egoistic human consciousness swinging in nature's uncertain balance. So, a lot of things to be discussed here. I think we can keep it for the next time.
Okay. Namaste.